Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Japan and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel a few times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years. They are still a relatively new addition to the Japanese beer scene, but they've built up a very good reputation for themselves in that short time, and I would say that they're probably best known for their different kinds of IPAs, although I have noticed they've been doing quite a variety of different styles in recent times, so it's maybe better to say that they are just very well rounded these days. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is a style that I have had from this brewery before. It's one that I know they can do very well, but one that I've not had from them in a little while actually. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to Shikoku Island, which is the smallest of the four main Japanese home islands. We're going to go to the kind of, I guess we could say the sort of southwesternish part of the island, to Ehime Prefecture, and to be specific, we are going to go to Matsuyama City, Matsuyama-shi, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful DD4D Brewing. So this particular beer is called Rainbow Visor. It comes in at 8% ABV, and this one is a New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, this is yet another beer that I picked up at the wonderful liquor shop Asahiya in Taishibashi Machi here in Osaka. A lovely little shop run by Koji along with his daughter Rika, who is doing most of the work these days because Koji's getting a little bit older, but they've always got a great selection of Japanese beers and things from further afield. But of course, when I come to Japan, it is primarily the Japanese stuff that I'm interested in. But I think pretty much all the beers that I've tried from DD4D Brewing have been purchased there, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, check out the link to their Facebook page in the video description below, and do go along and give them a visit if you find yourself here in Osaka. So let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. Always nice to return to DD4D, and this is one of two cans that I have from these guys this time, and the other one is a style that we haven't tried from these guys yet, which I'm very much looking forward to. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. The Rainbow Visor 8% New England Double IPA. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from DD4D before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to quite regularly, of course, since I'm now based out in Asia, but do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about DD4D Brewing once again then. So, as I mentioned to you earlier, DD4D Brewing are based in Matsuyama City in Ehime Prefecture on Shikoku Island, here in Japan, and the brewery was founded back in 2019. So the main man behind this company is Keita Yamanouchi, and his first exposure to craft beer and brewing was during a trip to Canada during his university days, and he started homebrewing for himself back in 2016. But the history of the DD4D brand though goes back to 1998 when they opened a clothing store in the Sanbunecho area of the city. But apparently they're very selective about the brands that they choose for the store, and they want to focus on the message and the worldview of the designer of the clothes. But the clothing store was Keita's parents' business, and he took over and looked after the shop, but his interest in beer was still extremely strong. So he wanted to start a brewery, and he formed the parent company Japandemic. And of course the clothing store and now the brewery are under that company. It's very common in Japan, of course, for there to be a parent company and then for the brand of the beer to be a bit different, of course, and for there to be other little sidearms of the company as well. That's just how it goes. But the company officially started brewing beer in 2019, and the original brewery can be found behind the clothing store space, and they also have a bar at the clothing store as well. So I think this is somewhere that we do need to go and visit for an out and about video. I would love to go there and film actually. But in November of 2021 they opened a new brewery in the Matsuyama area of the city, and this facility is known as DD4D Factory and Curiosities, and it was at this point that they started canning their beer as well when they moved in there. But their brewing equipment comes from PSS in Slovakia, and they started off with a fermentation capacity of 9,600 litres. They've got an on-site bar there that opens during the weekends from spring until autumn. So I guess we'll need to time our visit to Ehime Prefecture for that opening as well, so we can check that out. But as of July 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 250 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. Like I mentioned earlier, these guys produce a lot of different IPAs, but they do a variety of other styles as well actually. I've seen Imperial Stouts from them, I've seen Belgian triples, and yeah, different kinds of IPAs, black IPAs, West Coasters, and New England Hazes like this one. So yeah, probably fair to say that this brewery is a very well-rounded one these days. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about DD4D Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd, and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all those different beers that they've done. But yeah, let's go on then and have a little look at this beer itself. So to tell you the details of this one comes in at 8% ABV. It's a New England Hazy, Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. We said that earlier. This one is hopped with Idaho 7, Sabro, Citra, and Mosaic. We know all four of these hops quite well. Yeah, all four of them are American. All four of them I think might be about 14% alpha acid if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, Idaho 7 is going to give you that lovely kind of juicy mango, but also the soft apricot, papaya, and kind of pineapple-y notes. Sabro is going to give you that big mandarin-y note with a bit of orangey zestiness to it and a bit of coconut underneath. Citra is going to give you that kind of big juicy mango note and a bit of peach as well, but also a bit of lemon limey character in a New England IPA. Then Mosaic is going to be more kind of tangerine orangey leaning with that distinctive little bit of earthiness to it. The malt base in this one though is Pilsner, wheat, oat flakes, torrefied wheat, and dextrin malt. In this one it was a mix of British, American, and German malts that were in this. The wheat of course comes from America, and we'll talk about that in a wee second. And I think it's said as well that this one was using a Verdant yeast. Verdant of course are one of the very good IPA breweries in England. They're based in Cornwall if I'm not mistaken. I forget which city it is now, but yeah, they're based in Cornwall. But yeah, as you can see, the can on this one is very nicely presented. I'm not sure how good the light is in this video right now. Maybe need to get a wee lamp or something like that for these videos while I'm filming here in Japan. But yeah, you can see plain silver top on the can there. This one I believe is 350 milliliters, which is quite standard in Japan of course. But yeah, it tells you all about the beers and the details of the beer in here as well, which you can see it's just focusing on just now. But yeah, all in all, it looks pretty nice, I have to say. So yeah, nicely presented beer, this one, as you're always going to get from DD4D. But yeah, this one is called Rainbow Visor, and yeah, they had a couple of beers from DD4D in Liquor Shop Asahiya when I was there. This one's part of the Hop Treat series, which I can't remember if we've had something from before, but I'm sure it'll be good anyway. This is a style, as I say, that I know DD4D can do very well. So let's get the guy out into the glass and we'll see what it's all about. So, here we go. I love this Mino glass that I've got. Mino, of course, are one of the local breweries down here in Osaka. But yeah, we've got a Mino beer to look at a bit later on in this particular Japan mini series that I'm filming for you at the moment. But yeah, you can see this beer's poured pretty much as you would expect from New England IPA. You can see before the head disappears, this one's poured with just over a half finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. There's some medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid there, but the head Definitely gets a little bit foamier the further up that you go, but all in all, it does look pretty nice. In terms of the colour of this one, I would describe it as being sort of mango juice. Like, I always like comparing the different New England IPAs to different fruit juices, because that's just what the appearance reminds me of. But yeah, remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. You don't often have to care about that though when it comes to different kinds of IPAs. But the level of haze in this one, I will say, this is not one of the soupier and gloopier New England IPAs that I've come across, especially at the 8% mark. But yeah, the level of haze in these beers depends usually on the oat content, the wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. That can vary from brewery to brewery and beer to beer, of course. But yeah, in terms of what you would expect, this one is, you know, it looks exactly as you would expect from a New England IPA these days. It certainly looks the part. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one, and you can see the head has just faded away to be a very sort of thin, foamy layer. So yeah, I like that with this one. Let's have a wee look at the nose then and see how we go. I don't think we need to say much more about the appearance of this beer. Let's have a look at the aroma. Yeah. Aroma wise, this beer, I have to say, is pretty damn nice. It's kind of what you would expect, in all honesty. I really do think this this one goes together very, very well. It's got that lovely big juicy fruity character that you'd expect. It's also got the kind of nice bready backbone to it, and you've also got that bit of green component in there. As I've said in many reviews before, for me there are 6 elements to think about when it comes to New England IPAs. So I would say you have to think about the kind of farmhousey yeasty character and the rye leaning grainy side of things. Those 2 elements though are a bit more common in American brewed New England IPAs, but then you've got wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and also the kind of sweeter side of things. This beer doesn't have too much sweetness to it in terms of the New England IPA, but it certainly has quite a little bit of it certainly has a lot of barley malt character to it. There's a little bit of the wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose there. Not getting too much of the oats coming out of this one, right enough, but maybe we'll get a wee bit more of that in the actual flavour of the beer. We'll just need to see. But let's break down this aroma though and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So the backbone of this beer, you've got that lovely fresh white bready bread crust coming out of this one. So yeah, lovely fresh white bready bread crust in there. On top of that, you're getting little bits, there's little elements of woodiness in there, which you'll very often get in these beers, of course. So a little bit of woodiness, a little bit of Jacob's cream cracker, but then yeah, the a little bit of woodiness, a little bit of Jacob's cream cracker, and then yeah, you have on top of that, you start to get the bready notes out of this one. The bready character is actually quite sweet in this one. I will say as well, there's Pilsner malt in this. You can smell that little bit of Pilsner malty crispness in this beer, which I think is really quite nice actually. I remember a lot of European breweries were doing that for a while, using Pilsner malt in their New England IPAs. I don't think it's as common as it was for a period, but I remember pretty much every brewery in Sweden was doing that for a couple of months, maybe 2-3 years ago, something like that. But yeah, you can certainly smell that little bit of Pilsner malty crispness in the top of the nose too. But yeah, there's a little bit of sweet brown bread in there. I think that's probably the dextrin malt. I've always found, yeah, dextrin malt gives this almost like sweeter brown bready character, I think. But yeah, you have lots of kind of quite dense but fluffy, fresh white bready character in this beer. You've also got a bit of wheaty bitiness in there. And it's interesting because I know the wheat in this one, it actually says on the DD4D website, which I like, what country the malts come from, because malt, of course, is a bit different. You know, American wheat is a bit smoother and more porridgey, I would say, whereas, you know, European wheat has a little bit more bitiness to it, generally speaking. So yeah, you can smell the dense, white bready, wheaty character coming out of this beer, but, you know, it's actually at the same time it does give you a little touch of the bitiness, which is kind of interesting too. So yeah, basically lots of different white bready character in this beer. You've also got that nice, you've got that really nice little bit of oatiness in there as well. And oatiness is quite interesting in New England IPAs because it gives you an indicator, a very rough indicator of how old your beer is actually. So yeah, for me, when it comes to oatiness, basically the creamier the oats smell and taste, the fresher your New England IPA is, the drier they are, the older the beer is. It's a very, very rough measure, but yeah. But European oats are definitely a little bit more creamy than the American oats. The American oats are a little bit more kind of porridgey. I think it was European oats that were in this one, but I can't say for certain. But yeah, you do get a little bit of creaminess in this one, but you can smell some of the dryness coming through. This beer is pretty recently released, I'm sure. It was one of the kind of newer ones on Liquor Shop Asahiya as well. But yeah, all in all, the aroma of this beer is actually the malty side of things. The more you smell of it, the more oatiness you get, and it does sweeten up a little bit. There is a little touch of that Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing, and maybe just a little hint of a Skittles aroma. There's one of the verdant yeasts, I'm sure, gives you these kind of skittly type notes to the beer. So yeah, I like that about this one. And you can smell a little bit of the biscuity character as well from the Pilsner malt in this beer, which I do really quite appreciate as well. On the yeasty side of things, yeah, you're getting a little bit of a kind of farmhousey bread, but the yeasty side of the beer often comes out more in the actual aftertaste of the beer, I would say. But yeah, let's move on to the hoppy side of the aroma then. So as I've explained in many IPA reviews before, there are three kinds of hoppings when it comes to your IPAs. You have early edition hopping, which takes place within the first hour of the wort boil. That gives you pretty much all your bitterness and a deeper, danker flavour and aroma. You've got late edition hopping, which takes place in the last half hour of the wort boil. So that gives you a little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma. And then yeah, you have that is going to give you a very bright green component, I would say, in terms of flavour aroma. Then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete. That's all about flavour and aroma, and it gives you that really just very bright green component again. So New England IPAs rely on late addition and dry hopping. West Coast IPAs use all three, which is why they're deeper, danker and more bitter. But your green component in this one, you definitely get a little bit of earthiness coming out of this one. That's most likely to come from the mosaic in this particular beer. But there's a lot of very bright floral aromaticity, some zesty grassiness in there as well, and yeah, some zesty grassiness. And you've actually got a little bit of an oily character to this one as well, because it's using Superdelic, which, if I remember rightly, is one of the new treatment methods to get the oils, the lupulin oils out of hops. But yeah, green component is what you'd expect. On the fruity side of things, for me, again, lovely big tropical fruit notes. It's actually quite well balanced, this one. There's some really nice kind of peachy notes in there, which are going to come from the Citra. Big juicy mango, of course, which is going to be both your Citra and your Idaho 7 in this one. But quite a lot of soft tropical fruit as well, like definitely apricots, bit of juicy papaya in there as well, pineapple for sure. You can smell the coconut from the Sabro, definitely, in this one. But yeah, at the front of the nose, you're getting some really, there's quite a bit of pungent, orangey, mandarin-y character coming out of the beer. So yeah, the way that goes together in this one, I think, is really quite interesting. So it gets a thumbs up from me in that particular regard. So yeah, I like that with this one. I do have to say, I like how that goes together. Yeah, I think we can. I think we can leave it at that for the aroma. Pretty much everything you'd expect of a New England IPA does become a little bit more wheaty leaning, I would say, and more Pilsner malty leaning the more that you smell of it. But a bit of the oaty character was really coming out as well. So yeah, let's leave it at that for the aroma. As I always say, though, take a bit of time to enjoy that before you get stuck in. But let's have a taste of this one now and see how we get on. This is the Rainbow Visor from DD4 Brewing. DD4D Brewing, sorry, in Matsuyama in Ehime Prefecture on Shikoku Island. in Japan. Let's get stuck in. Slanju, skål, cheers, kanpai. Ooh, that's nice once again. These guys are really solid, you know. DD4D definitely know what they're doing. And it's cool to see more and more breweries of this quality popping up across Japan. I mean, Japan had a little boom of Jibiru breweries in the kind of early to mid 90s after the brewing laws were relaxed. So you had a lot of breweries that popped up and they were brewing like, you know, Kolsch's and alt beers and stuff like this, but you know, they couldn't compete with the quality of the imported German stuff, and it was just more expensive. So that was one of the things. So the more modern American style craft breweries that are popping, there's newer breweries popping up all the time here in Japan, and they're brewing some really, really good stuff. Actually, I have to say that they are brewing some very, very good quality beers actually. So yeah, DD4D are one of the kind of newer generation Japanese brewers, founded in 2019. It was 1993 that the first Jibiru breweries appeared. But you've got some of the more old school breweries like Isakadoya, Shiga Kogen, Fujizakura Heights, and so on that have been around and are still doing some really good solid stuff too. But yeah, these guys are definitely an up and coming brewery. I think it's fair to say that. And the quality of the IPAs that they're doing is pretty damn good, I have to say. Really, really good stuff. So this beer gives you everything you want, I would say. That is really nice. First impression, definitely has a bit more oaty character to it than the aroma would have you believe. And it's very well balanced between the white bread, the wheat, the oat. The barley, wheat and oat in this one are all really playing a kind of role in this beer. So yeah, let's have a wee look at the, let's have a little look at the, the flavour profile. This one, just break it down a wee bit. So we'll start in the middle third of the palate as we always do. So backbone of the beer, you've got that fresh white bready bread crust in there. That is of course your backbone. Further forward on this one, you've got a wee bit more, you've got a little bit more of a kind of woody character in there, and then above that there's a little bit of the kind of Jacob's cream cracker and things. So yeah, bit of white bready bread crust, Jacob's cream cracker, and a wee bit of wood underneath that. But yeah, the above the white bready character, you have that nice, or above the kind of cracker note, you've got that brown bready character in there, which is actually a little bit sweet. I mean, the further into the aftertaste you go, the brown bready character just gets that little bit sweeter, I would say. So yeah, lovely little bit. Above the kind of sweeter brown bread, you've got that more dense white bready, wheaty character. And there was more the barley malt first. The barley malt in this one's actually quite sweet as well, which I think is the dextrin. I think when they use dextrin malt in these beers, it tends to sweeten up the bready side of things. But yeah, you've got the brown bready layer, the white bready layer, and then above that you can feel the more dense, wheaty white bread coming out of this one, which I think is really, really nice. So yeah, dense, wheaty, white bready character in there, which is great. And then above that, you're starting to get, you can feel in the wheaty, just above the wheaty layer, toward the back of that middle third of the palate, you do get some really nice kind of Pilsner malty characteristics out of this one. So yeah, I do like how that pieces together. So yeah, a little bit of that Pilsner malty character in there. Then as you move further forward from that, you can feel the oaty layer in this one. And the oats are quite interesting. Because I think it is, I'm pretty sure it was American oats that were in this. Because they do feel that little bit more kind of smooth and porridgey and stuff. So yeah, going down the middle line of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit of that creaminess there. But as you move out toward the edges of your palate, it definitely gets a little bit drier, but then yeah, there is that wee bit of kind of porridgey character to this beer. And in the dead centre, you've got that yeah, in the dead centre you've got that Werther's Original butter candy butterscotchy sort of note there. So yeah, Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch in the middle of your palate, that's the boozy side of the beer. And then yeah, just to the sides of that you've got a wee bit of a more kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing coming out of it. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together in this one is really nice. The middle third of your palate in this beer really is well done. So that gets a big thumbs up from me. And the bready side of this one's a wee bit sweeter too, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, on the that's everything we need to say about the middle third of the palate. Let's go to the back third of your palate. And as I've often said, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. And the back third of your palate, definitely has a little bit more of you know, the flavours that you get are quite similar to the middle third of your palate, they just come out at different intensities. So yeah, border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of bready build up in there, kind of brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, then the more dense wheaty character there. The base of the back third of your palate's the bread crust again, there's the bread crusty character again, there's the wee bit of cracker there, wholemeal brown bready character above that, which is a little bit lighter, airier, and slightly drier, of course. Then the white bready character above that, which again is a bit lighter, airier, and drier. Then you've got the wheaty notes on top of that, which are more dense actually, and they've got a little bit of bitiness. But then above everything else on the back third of the palate, you've got the yeasty side of the beer. So let's have a wee look at that yeasty side of things. So yeah, the yeasty side of this beer for me is, I would say, yeasty side, the dead centre of your, the yeasty character is a little bit more kind of brown bready almost. A little bit like sweet American cornbread, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, around the edge of that, you do get a more kind of like mix of sweet white bread and wholemeal brown bread, and then the very edge is a little bit more kind of bread crusty. So yeah, all of that sits on top of everything else on the back third of your palate. But yeah, you can definitely feel that the back third of your palate, the flavour is a little bit taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and presses together that wee bit more. But yeah, the way all of that pushes together, I think, is nice. The way the malty side of this beer, I think, is, and the yeasty side is really nicely done. Let's go on to the hoppy side of things then. So the green component in this one, because of the superdelic in here, it is a little bit oily, but still has a wee bit of the kind of bitterness to it as well. You do get that little touch of dankness out of it. But back corners of the palate, you do definitely have a little bit of earthiness in there, which is the mosaic. As you move further forward, it's got a little bit of a kind of herbal note there, but then yeah, as you push further forward along the sides of your palate, it has a wee bit more of a kind of floral aromaticity as well, which I think is nice there. There's maybe a little touch of pine resin to this one, but not overly much. But yeah, floral aromaticity on the front corners of the palate, then round the front curve of the tongue, it is a little bit lighter and more grassy, a wee bit more oily, I would say as well. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together, I think, is very, very nice. Yeah, let's go to the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of things. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you get the bready build up, the brown bread in the base, the white bread, the wheat on top, but then yeah, the base of that front third of your palate, there's a bit more of a kind of yeah, you've got a little bit more of that white bready bread crust in there, the cracker, the brown bread, the white bread, then the smoother wheaty character. Then above that you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll the way out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at that fruity side of things then. Yeah, so the fruity side of the beer for me is kind of what you'd expect if you know these hops. I think the Idaho 7 and the Sabro are the ones that are kind of sticking out for me a bit more than the Citra and the Mosaic. But yeah, that's kind of interesting too. So at the back of that front third of your palate, there's a little bit of a kind of peachy type note in there. So you can feel that sharper peach, but then yeah, as you move further forward Lovely big kind of juicy mango character to it. And then yeah, as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, you've got a little bit more of yeah, you can feel that sort of dry apricot-y character underneath, and a wee bit more of there's a wee bit of papaya in there as well. Then above that you've got a kind of oily pineapple-y character too, which I think is really nice. But as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, you can feel the coconut underneath from the sabro, and then above that you've got all the kind of juicy tangerine and mandarin and things like that you would expect of the both the mosaic and the sabro in this one. So yeah, it's actually really nicely balanced in terms of its fruits. The softer tropical fruits, the apricots and the papayas and stuff, they linger, pardon me, into the aftertaste. But yeah, the way it goes together, I think, is really, really nice. So gets a thumbs up from me. Yeah, I don't think we need to say too much more about the flavour of this beer. I just think it's really solid, but yeah, more oaty leaning the further into the aftertaste you go, and more kind of softer and tropical leaning. A little bit of coconut from the sabro, I think, really comes out in this one really nicely too. But yeah, another really, really solid New England double from DD4D, and I'm not surprised because the quality stuff I've had from them has always been good. Let's round off then with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So for me, yeah, this beer, I'd say it's pushing the top end of mid-body. The carbonation is very smooth in this one. This beer, it has a wee bit of creaminess to it, but it's also got a nice kind of oily slickness, which I think is great. The IBU count in this one is about 30-ish IBUs, I would say. So yeah, about 30 IBUs, and then yeah, 30 IBUs, and I'd say the malty character in this one, there's a wee bit of dryness underneath, smoothness and sweetness in the middle from the bready characters, a bit of creaminess on top, and then a bit more of a kind of straight up sweetness on top from the boozy side of the beer. Yeasty side of this one's a little bit drier, and then yeah, the fruity side of this beer I think too is it's really nice and all that. Very good, leans more toward the tropical side of things further into the aftertaste, but yeah, there is a wee bit of citrusy character there as well. You do actually get a little hint of lime just behind the kind of front tip of the tongue, which is something that didn't really come up now until you get so far into the aftertaste. But yeah, all in all, another great beer from DD4D Brewing, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this again, but probably they will have something new by the time I go to review another one of their IPAs. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This was the Rainbow Visor, an 8% New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA from the wonderful DD4D Brewing in Matsuyama, Ehime Prefecture, Shikoku here in Japan. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from DD4D Brewing as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But until then, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out DD4D Brewing social media, and I'll catch you guys in another review very, very shortly. Ciao just now.